All right, welcome back. So, I'm a couple days removed from where we left off last time. I was working on my giant ATX 770 mountain bike to touring bike conversion build project. That's still in progress. I've got my workshop area still pretty much in mid build mode, so I've got some stuff all over the place. But today I have a slightly different project. I've been out of town for a couple days, so I'm back and I've shifted my priorities for the moment because 2 days ago, before I went out of town to visit my in-laws, I took my backup road bike. This is not my backup road. This is my race bike. My quote, proverbially, my race bike. Um, I took my backup road bike. I was going to get that out on the road just for a quick ride before I went out of town. I went to inflate the tires, and the the front tire, the valve, the Presta valve. These are tires with an inner tube, and the tube has a valve, and this valve style is called Presta. Well, anyway, there's I don't have a tube right here, but the valve cap broke off as I was inflating it, and I was in kind of a rush. I was already a little bit late for what I was trying to cram a ride in between something else, and I didn't want to mess around with fully. I mean, it's not that it takes that long, but what I did was I ripped the front wheel off of my race bike because it already had a tire and tube mounted and was already in pressure, and I stuck that onto my backup road bike. So I went out on the ride, and then all I did was I put the rim from the backup road bike, just quickly stuck it into my race bike. Now, the irony of the situation is that in the long term, what I had always planned on doing was to put the wheel set that was on the quote backup road bike onto my race bike, because that wheel set is newer, is lighter, and it's brand new. I bought it this winter when I built up that bike, so it's got about 50, 60 miles on it compared to the original wheel set that came on this bike about 8, 9, 10 years ago, which is still a decent wheel set, but this has about, I'm guessing, 3,000 plus miles on it. Still spins relatively true. It still spins quite true, and I really like the bearings on this. I like it so much, in fact, that the new wheel set that I bought is pretty much the same thing. The Vuelta company that I bought, again, Vuelta make budget-oriented, decent wheels. So this was the Vuelta XRP Pro. Now the same exact level in their lineage is the Vuelta. What is this? It's the Corsa, the Vuelta Corsa Pro. These are a sub. This is like an 850 gram front wheel and about 1,000 gram rear wheel. So it's plus the skewer, so it's just under 2 kilogram for the wheel set. I don't think I ever actually took a mass on the original wheel set. Long story short, what I'm gonna do is to get my race bike ready for the race season. Now, rewind this whole thing. I say race season. We got to use that term a little bit loosely. I'm not a racer. There's about 4 weekends here in the spring where there's local-ish races that I can get to, and I like to test myself a little bit, but I don't do this at any level close to elite. I just do it to test myself against myself and to have some fun. I do try to improve every year. I mean, I always have a goal of getting better, and I'd love to be a great racer, but right now, I'm just not there. I'm just not there. Whether it's my wattage, my diet, my weight, the training hours I'm putting in, number of different things. I still like to compete. I'm a competitor, but I would have to just urge you that I'm using the word racer lightly. But this is a decent race bike, full carbon setup, full Shimano Dura Ace group set, FSA carbon crank set. So I mean, relatively light. Not the lightest, even the 8-10 years that's passed since this was manufactured. Production carbon bikes have gotten lighter. So this is a sub 20-pound bike. It's a nice bike. I really, really like it. But for probably $3,000 or $4,000 nowadays, you can get a lighter, more performance bike. And if you spend more, again, that's a lot of money. But this was when it was produced close to the top of the line. I mean, it had the top of the line group set on it. It had the top of the line. Yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't the best. It was never the best, but it was a pretty good race bike back then, and it still is a pretty good race bike now. Anyway, project get this ready for the race season, I've got two main goals. Well, a couple main goals. Put my race tire, my Continental race tire that I have back here. This is a Continental 4000 Grand Prix 4000. These are pretty much well known as a really good race / training tire. They're not the lightest, but they don't flat out on you, and they have good rolling resistance, and they're just pretty much known as one of the better tires to run on a clincher setup. A clincher setup, meaning the tire clinches into the rim, and then the pressure from the tube expands it out, and the rubber grabs onto these little hooks that are on the inside of the rim. So that's what a clincher tire is. Most, unless you're at an elite level, most tires and wheels are going to be clincher style. So I'm going to put the tube and the Continental Grand Prix 4000 on the front on my new wheel. Then I'm going to take the tire and tube from this wheel off. I'm going to take the cassette of my 10-speed drivetrain off of here. This is an 1128 cassette. It's an Ultegra cassette. I'm going to take this off of the wheel, and then I'm going to take the matching new, the Vuelta Corsa Pro wheel, and I'm going to put my race cassette on, and then I'm going to put the tire and tube on, and I'm going to mount it into this. So this will then have the brand new wheel set plus the race tires. And the last thing will be to replace my chain. This chain is the original chain that came on this bike, and it's nearing the end of its life. It's not dead, but if I continue to run this chain for too much longer, it's going to start to wear out my crankset and my cogs and my cassette faster, because as a chain ages, the links and the actual metal begins to slightly stretch, and the longer the gap is in between each link, it becomes desynchronized with the gap in the teeth on the crank and the cassette. So as that gap increases, that mismatch increases, then you have more wear on your components. So I don't want that to happen, because these are nice. It's a nice crankset. It's in really good shape. Same with the cassette. So this is a chain length. Oh God, what's the name of it? It's a chain length tester, chain stretch. Anyway, what this does is it has two sides. You put the one end into one link, and then where this kind of hammery looking thing falls, that falls where in between two links. So it has two sides. It has a 0.75 and a 1.0. Essentially what that means is, if you test this and you want your tire to be under you want your chain to be under a little bit of pressure, not a ton, but you want it to be tightened a little bit. You put you seat that one end in, and then if your 1.0 slides all the way into the gap, which mine doesn't quite, but my 0.75 does. 0.75 slides right into the gap. That means that it's at basically 75% worn, okay, or 75% of the, I think that's what it means. It means it's close to being ready to change. When your 1.0 falls into there, if it falls straight in, that means you definitely need to change your chain, because you're at the point where it's going to start to wear out the components. So mine isn't quite there yet, but I just got a new chain for it, and I can take this chain off now, and I can always remount this and use this for a bit of training or for whatever, because it does work well with this drivetrain. But for the race, quote race season, I want the new chain. So I'm going to do the new wheel set, same tires, just going to swap it out. Basically swapping out the wheel set and changing a chain. That's what this project is going to be. Okay, let's get to it.